Are you kidding?
You're gonna be recompleted.
I didn't ask you for your garbage opinion. I lost to a bunch of losers like you. But could be worse. Become that geezer's heart tank? No thanks.
Then why help him?
I was really just along for the ride.
With...
My secret.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another Gummy Phone project. In this episode, we are going to analyze Larxene, or ELRENA if you will, and find out what secrets is she hiding. We'll look at clues in relevant characters, and we'll make an assessment on what her role will be in this story to come. I'm gonna hide my true goal to the very end. What? Are you saying I'm being too secretive? Well, what did you expect? I didn't have a heart. Those guys said a lot of things about hearts, but honestly, none of that stuff matters to me. But yeah, a heart by nature is ambiguous. The research was fishy from the start. I don't understand people who study hearts. I can't stand the guy in the lab coat who goes blah 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 about stuff. I'm not too fond of the one who sees me as inferior either. And what's up with the guy hiding one eye? Not a fan. After all, people say the eyes say more than the mouth. Then that musclehead, I can't stand him either. And facial hair just makes me shudder. Speaking of facial hair, I don't really like the guy that cheats. I don't like the one that spins his lances around and doesn't say much. And I definitely don't like the instrument playing guy. Huh? Yeah. Sure. I've been talking about what I hate. But aren't liking and hating two sides of the same coin? Hey, I said something deep. Yeah, maybe it's true. What I like. Let's see. What I like is... No, actually there's nothing I like. I hate everything. Don't misunderstand me and think I have particular feelings about something just because I hate it. I always work for me, and I don't want to be taken advantage of by anyone, thank you very much. It's easier to have no heart, isn't it? It means I don't have to like or dislike anyone in particular. It's painful to really like something. That's exactly why I can exploit feelings like that. For example, you'd hate it if you couldn't have your favorite ice cream anymore, right? So isn't it better not to like it? The thing I hate most is losing, and getting tricked, and not knowing something. Ugh! I hate that I'm human again. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have followed that guy, because now I don't have the excuse that I have no heart. An excuse for what? That's a secret, duh. Why do I have to tell you about something precious in my heart? Our most precious memories lie deep within our hearts. I'm not gonna go for getting them though. Since my heart has come back, the most precious thing inside has too. But it's not something I like or hate. It's something I cherish. I'm not gonna tell anyone about it. 'Cause I hate people who talk too much too. That's why it's my precious secret, and mine alone. Got that? Secret. Larxene is a Final Fantasy ninja with an emphasis on lightning style. Perhaps there was a time in her life where she undertook combat training other than ELRENA's Keyblade. She occupied the 12th spot of the Organization 13, making her the equivalent of a queen playing card, especially as the organization's only female member. Her title is the Savage Nymph. Savage refers to her cruel and sadistic nature, while nymph implies that she's like a fairy or nature spirit. ELRENA seems to genuinely care about the well-being of others. She first appears in the Data Daybreak town when she meets Laurium, who is searching for clues to his sister's whereabouts. He finds ELRENA in the same stairwell to the building where it happened. I suspect that ELRENA was compelled to help Laurium because she immediately developed an attraction to him. As per Larxene's weapon's namesake, Coup de Foudre, she fell in love at first sight. When ELRENA decides to get involved, her Chirithy remarks that it is unusual for her to care about others, to which she quickly shushes Chirithy. I don't think Chirithy is an omnipresent creature, but can be invisible while she is around. Chirithy always seems to represent the player's conscience, like Jiminy was to Pinocchio. There is a small sign that ELRENA wasn't actually all that nice. Like Strelitzia, ELRENA hardly formed a party with anyone. She didn't even really know Strelitzia, let alone enough to say that they were friends. Most likely, ELRENA wielded a variation of Olympia, a lightning-themed Keyblade. It is, however, strange that she was never actually seen wielding it. It honestly makes me wonder if she was truly a Keyblade wielder. Back when I made a video about Maleficent, I claimed that it was Maleficent who was Laurium's waypoint, and that Maleficent didn't return immediately to the time of Kingdom Hearts 2. Other than a darkness entity, Laurium was the only other person she met while in Daybreak Town. If she is reminded of him in the future, with a medium that is a personal object, Maleficent would summon Laurium to her location. But Laurium appears in the Dwarf Woodlands? Why would that happen? Could Maleficent be scouting other worlds at this time to find Disney villains? Will she manipulate the darkness in Laurium's heart? Perhaps she even manipulates Laurium and ELRENA to do her bidding and capture Hollow Bastion. It's clear Larxene has an attachment to Marluxia and perhaps a crush on him. While Larxene's motives are becoming clear to me, I'm not sure what Marluxia's motives are as to hijacking Organization 13, or why he tried to make Sora their puppet. But that's a subject for another day. After traveling through time, ELRENA is seen unconscious in a thunderstorm on the Forbidden Mountain outside of Maleficent's dominion. Of my previous speculations, I believe Maleficent may find a way to change the ending of her story to a positive outcome. This is foreshadowed by Wreck-It Ralph, who is immediately introduced after Maleficent laments that she cannot change the outcome of her story. Ralph is a villain in his own video game and just wanted to be the hero for once. I am bad and that's good, and I will never be good and that's not bad. Maleficent does, however, get to be a hero. As Angelina Jolie's portrayal of Maleficent, she has a happy ending. Maleficent is a fairy godmother to this version of Aurora. As Aurora grows older, she becomes closer with the nature-bound magic of the Moors, which was the true blessing Maleficent gave her. Maleficent does the same for Riku, as she takes him in and treats him as a son. We can reasonably suspect that ELRENA was taken in by Maleficent. This then leads into the idea that ELRENA got close enough to the darkness to lose her heart. Let's take a look at how I suspect Maleficent moves throughout time, and how it impacts Lauriam and ELRENA. The blue shaded Maleficent is her time ghost to show you how she moves relative to time. The three good fairies are Maleficent's waypoint. After using the arc to time travel, Maleficent can reappear at any point where Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather can remember her up to her return in Kingdom Hearts 2. After being stabbed by Riku, Maleficent travels to the time of Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. There she comes into contact with Lauriam, making her specifically his waypoint. Darkness helps her to escape to the future, however I don't believe she immediately went to Kingdom Hearts 2, and rather made a pit stop in the Fall Radiant Garden. From Radiant Garden, there is another arc she can use to get to the time of Kingdom Hearts 2. She can make this pit stop without raising anyone's suspicion. This is possibly where and when Maleficent learns of the black box. The problem with Maleficent immediately returning to Kingdom Hearts 2 is that Marluxia and Larxene already have existed and been defeated by that time. It should be crystal clear that Elsa's story is allegorical for the character development of Larxene, their blonde hairstyles contrasting and Larxene's distaste for ice, perhaps because it reminds her of stupid Vexen. Ironically, the use of her electric powers is used to manipulate the ice, suggesting a further comparison to Elsa.
Actually, it's still too early to call.
Elsa was on the precipice of embracing her magical powers for darkness, but chose light when she realized she had hurt her sister in an irreversible way.
She can set her heart free. So what will Elsa accept? Light or darkness? I know I want to know.
In Frozen 2, Elsa goes on to learn her role as an elemental central to the elemental wheel: ice, light, or crystal. Lightning, however, could be said to be on the opposite of the spectrum and a dark magic. Here we see Final Fantasy XIV's elemental wheel, with ice and thunder on opposite sides of its spectrum. Behind the scenes, it probably made Larxene more bitter and remorseful to find out Elsa chose light. She wanted to see if this played out like her own choices, and it didn't. That's why she didn't want Sora to interfere. Contrary to the meme, I love how Frozen was handled in Kingdom Hearts 3, since it was a harsh block on Sora meddling in the affairs of that world.
And how is it any of your business? Read the room, kiddo.
Final Fantasy VII's ELRENA has some design similarities to Larxene, as does her older sister named Gun. Gun even has the same eye color as Larxene. Interestingly enough, ELRENA's eyes resemble Larxene while possessed by Xehanort. ELRENA has a crush on Mr. Sang, which is also similar to Larxene's obvious crush on Marluxia. It's also not a secret Axel was inspired by Reno. ELRENA was the newest member of the Turks. Similarly, Larxene was the 12th member of Organization 13, before Roxas joined to complete their ranks. The way Sora runs into Larxene and Marluxia while exploring worlds can be compared to Cloud's run-ins with the Turks, impeding their progress. In hindsight, figuring out that Larxene's anagram to ELRENA may have been more obvious had anyone paid attention to ELRENA's character design.
I think we can also appreciate the anticipation leading up to Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, which will give ELRENA her new debut. Additionally, with the reveal of Ever Crisis, we may see a fresher portrayal of Gun.
Cruella was once known as Estella. She was always born with the black and white part in her hair, representing a dual personality. As a child, she could be very insensitive and troublesome, so her mother raised her to suppress her dark impulses. Cruella, as well as 101 Dalmatians, could shed some light on Larxene's inner cruelty. Life took Estella in a strange direction, presenting the opportunity to rectify the nightmares of her childhood. Like Larxene's plan to overthrow the Organization 13, she labored to overthrow the Baroness, a high-stakes fashion queen who turned out to be her real mother. Teaming up with the fabulous and somewhat androgynous Artie is something a reflection of Larxene's partnership with Marluxia. In the extreme desire for revenge against the Baroness, Cruella became her dominant personality, and she chose to lock away Estella deep in her heart. One thing I found interesting, in 101 Dalmatians with Glenn Close as Cruella, Roger Dearly, rather than being a musician, is a video game designer that is looking to design the perfect villain to his game. This is fascinatingly relevant to the meta-concept of Kingdom Hearts acknowledging itself as a video game via Wreck-It Ralph's Game Central Station.
In the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet, a malicious virus called Arthur almost completely wipes out the internet. Arthur's only function is to scan for emotional insecurities and replicate them. This is the exact same as how darkness likes to spread. It looks for the weaknesses in people's hearts and seeks to corrupt them. Something is to be said for the way Larxene loves to pick on the insecurities of others. Digging out other people's feelings like that is a sure way to spread negative emotions in the world. With Larxene's elemental association with electricity, I am willing to suggest ELRENA was the virus that overwrote the Master of Masters' carefully written program. It could be a problem for Larxene or ELRENA to have access to a gummy phone, if not for her electrical powers, but also because she would be totally petty on social media. Daybreak Town started glitching directly after ELRENA was introduced in the story. It is also after she was introduced that Brain made his famous claim to becoming the virus that would overwrite the Master's plans. From a storytelling perspective, it could be a subtle indication that ELRENA is the real virus, or even a source of darkness in this world. Perhaps she had a problem with Strelitzia if she only met her once. It was their Chirithy who were friends, not ELRENA and Strelitzia. Does ELRENA blame herself for what happened, and that's why she wants to help? I think the real reason ELRENA would cling to Marluxia is because she believes she hurt Strelitzia in some way. Brain explains that Daybreak Town's glitching occurred when Game Central Station volatilely attached itself to Daybreak Town somehow, through space and time. This only makes sense if it was attached beyond the fourth wall, else from our reality known as unreality. There are worlds inspired by reality by the Kingdom Hearts universe, so it wouldn't be beyond reason to see the use of films like Maleficent or Cruella to tell her side of the story. In some of my previous videos, I've also reasoned that the glitching could have started when Strelitzia's data was removed from Daybreak Town. In both the case of Strelitzia being murdered and her data being relocated, the world begins to collapse. I've claimed once before that Strelitzia was the princess of Daybreak Town's story, and perhaps ELRENA is the true villain. The fact that she has regained a heart means she can no longer hide any truth from herself. What caused the glitching is quite difficult to ascertain, but perhaps we can consider all three of these scenarios part of the same problem. K.H. Nyctophilius's recent writings suggest a culprit who is connected to Game Central Station, as well as a culprit who gave the Candy King access to the Heartless data. Though she seems innocent and well-intentioned, we can keep in mind that ELRENA was also found outside hanging out where Strelitzia was last seen. It may be cliché, but they say the culprit always returns to the scene of the crime. ELRENA was a wild card among the choice of lifeboats for the time machine. Her presence ensured that the Union leaders would want to spare her, making it so that not everyone could escape to the future. The Master even stated that he didn't know or seem to care who took a lifeboat as long as all of them departed. Unlike every other dandelion in Daybreak Town, ELRENA was privy to the concerns Laurium had surrounding his sister, as well as the knowledge that this world would end. She was just at risk to cultivate darkness as the Union leaders, and even expressed the idea that she didn't deserve to be saved. However, the Master was vague about one particular darkness. He never mentioned anything about it other than that it would be sealed when the real Daybreak Town fell. The Master could be certain of this. Luciu fought this darkness that labored to help Maleficent get back to the future. Speculation posits that this particular darkness belonged to Master Ava, and it very well could be the case. Maleficent has a strong association with greed, the same deadly sin associated with Ava. However, this darkness was just helping Maleficent. It didn't care about going along with her. It had other plans.